This is Brian Shannon from alphatrends.net, and today is Wednesday, the 28th of May, 2008. I just wanted to put a quick video together here that's more educational in nature, but actually has an actionable idea, and that idea is Sina Corp, symbol S-I-N-A. What I wanted to talk about was the concept of trend alignment. As you know, the name of my book is Technical Analysis Using Multiple Time Frames, and the subject matter is really appropriate for day traders, swing traders, and investors. It just depends on which time frame you're going to use. Now, what I'm going to look at here on Sina is a more of a swing trader's time frame. That is, typically you would expect going into the trade that you can hold it anywhere from 2 to 5, 6, 7 days, depending on what the market tells you. You go into the trade thinking it's a swing trade and you might want to hold it for 3 or 4 days, but if price action tells you that it's time to get out because the stock starts breaking down, then you've got to listen to that. Always, defer to price action first, and your opinion takes a back seat to that. Looking at the daily time frame, though, we've got a rising 10-day moving average above a 20-day moving average above a rising 50-day moving average. You can see the stock's got a very nice pattern in here of increasing volume on the rallies, and the heaviest volume will typically come at the turning points. Okay, so we see that this stock rallied on heavy volume, and I didn't draw that too straight, but the heaviest volume came right here towards the end. Unfortunately, that's not a good timing indicator because, as you can see here, the stock then consolidated on light volume in here, and then the stock started moving to the upside once again, but all three of these volume bars exceeded this peak right here, so it wasn't good for timing, obviously. But the biggest volume again came at a short-term turning point. Volume typically peaks at turning points, and when there's a lot of emotion in the market, that emotion is often met when the company reports some kind of news. So we see that the stock is clearly, showing this pattern of increased volume on the rallies and diminishing volume relative to the advance. Okay, not relative to this volume right here, but relative to the most recent move. This prior resistance near 49 has been tested. It looks like it's holding its support. Early in the uptrend, we saw the 10-day moving average holding as a level where buyers were found. Now we see the 20-day moving average. We can see that the stock has found some resistance recently up near that $60 level where it had found some resistance late in 2007. And looking at a weekly time frame and at a monthly time frame, you can see if the stock were to get above that level, it would be actually at all-time highs. On this daily time frame, though, we're clearly in an uptrend. Now, when we drill down to a shorter term time frame, you can see in here that we saw the stock right here in a nice uptrend. It started turning sideways and then broke down. So what we have here is a stage 2 uptrend, stage 3 distribution, and a stage 4 decline. So even though on from the 16th to the 19th the stock was pulling back, the daily it was still in an uptrend. So we had a stage 2 uptrend here on the daily time frame, but on the 30-minute time frame it was saying stay away from this stock. It's now in a short-term downtrend. You want to avoid these stocks in here. You can make money selling short in here, but the odds don't favor it because the sum of the rallies in an uptrend will always be greater than the sum of the declines. And a trend once established is more likely to continue than it is to reverse. It takes a lot less energy to sustain a trend than it does to reverse one. So now we look at the stock and we can see all these moving averages crossing back and forth. This is what's known as accumulation. You can see the stock sold off down to about the 49.25 level, and then it made another push lower right here down to 49.40. Now what you see is the buyers have since become a little bit more aggressive at about $50 a share is where they took control after the most recent pullback. You can see the stock has had a little resistance in this area. Now, what we want to do on a 30-minute time frame like we have here is to look for setting up our potential risk reward for this swing trade. Realistically, what you could look at is you could say, where do I expect there to be a source of supply that might halt this uptrend? And that would be, well, where was their prior support? Perhaps right here. Or what we could do is we could take a look at the VWAP line from this high right here and say the average price that this stock traded at since this big gap higher was about $54 a share. So maybe near 54 would be a conservative price target. If we took that and said our upside objective is 54, and again, it's being very conservative because if it's truly remaining in uptrend, it ought to continue to higher highs. But for the purposes of outlining the trade, you want to be very conservative. Let's now drill down to a shorter term time frame, which is the 10-minute time frame. So what we want to see in here is we see that the stock, first of all, the 5-day moving average has been declining. It just recently started to flatten out. That tells me that the stock is now ready to begin a new rally. What we saw late in the day on Wednesday was the stock broke past a little bit of resistance that it's seen at about $51.30. So the definition of an uptrend is higher highs and higher lows. We had this downtrend here, so there was no reason to be a buyer of the stock unless you're an institution trying to accumulate 5 million shares over the course of a week or so. For a shorter term trader, what you want to do is you want to wait for the evidence that the buyers are back in control. So now let's drill down a little bit further. Again, keep in mind that our approximate upside target will be 54 to 55, where it previously had this little resistance in here. So let's just call it 54.5. We'll split the difference, and that's still being pretty conservative, I think. If we drill down to a 5-minute time frame, again, using the definition of an uptrend, the shorter term trend will typically lead the longer term trend because the long term trend is just the sum of a bunch of shorter term trends. But we have these higher lows in here, and we've just seen a higher high right now. So I think your worst case stop for this stock would be right here at about $50.30. So if you bought it at current levels, 51.45, and you expected it to rally 3 points up to 54.50, you would then be risking what did I say, 50.35, approximately $1 for approximately $3 of upside. In other words, a 1 to 3 risk reward ratio. You're risking $1 to make a potential for $3. Now, I think we can get a little bit more accurate in that. What I'm looking for in this stock, if we look now at a 2-minute time frame, this is 2 days, 2 minutes, and here you can see that this is the average price over the last 2 days, or the VWAP. Now we'll look at a 1 minute. Today's VWAP was at about $51 a share, and you can see right in here that when it broke past this little level of resistance at 51.10, that's where the volume came in today. Looking at it in the little pullback in here, where this resistance was tested as support, you see the volume was light on the pullback, and then the buyers came back in again. So I think that if this stock were to open on any weakness between 51.20 and 51.10, I might take a nibble at it right in there and think that my stop would actually go. I don't think there's any reason to wait for it to go all the way down to 51.30. I think a much more conservative stop would be at about $50.80. So if you were to buy it, let's say, and I don't want to buy it on a pullback. I want to see it pull back down to 51.10 maybe, and then get back above 51.25 or so. So I want to buy on strength, not weakness. So if I can buy it at 51.25, let's just say, as an example, my stop then would be 45 cents away, and then my job would be to manage risk and continually listen to the definition of trend, higher highs and higher lows, and see if it can obtain that upward objective. The reason I did this video is because I wanted to show you the type of analysis that goes into my book, Technical Analysis Using Multiple Time Frames, with a real live example here. What I'm going to be doing, and for the people who've purchased the book, when you get the book, on the very last page, there's a username and a password. At technicalanalysisbook.com, there's a bonus tab, and on that bonus tab, I'm going to be putting more of these type of educational videos. I'm also going to be doing, from time to time, a poll of what type of videos you would like to see, and I'm going to keep it available only to the people who purchase my book. So again, make sure you get your order in before the 31st, and I'll autograph it for you. Thanks for listening.